and welcome to GameSack. We're taking a look at some more HD remasters.
That's right. The first time we did this episode, I thought, well, God, this is just a cheap way for companies to make some more money, but it actually turned out to be pretty cool. Some of those remasters were actually really well done.
I agree, and let's see if the games that we cover this time hold up just as well. I've always wondered, what's the point in remastering a game that's already HD to begin with? Well, let's see what they can improve with the original Dead Rising here. This was actually the first game that I purchased way back when I got my Xbox 360 in 2006. You play as photojournalist Frank West trying to get the scoop on a town here in Colorado that's been infested by zombies. And you have 72 hours before your ride shows back up. You start out very weak, but you earn prestige points by taking good pictures and of course by killing zombies. Almost anything can be used as a weapon. Of course, some things are more effective than others. Personally, I like running them over in vehicles to get massive amounts of kills. Of course, your weapons are going to break after you use them for a little bit, just like Breath of the Wild. There are plenty of other ways to earn experience as well, like helping people. You usually start the game from the beginning each time, but you keep all of your experience that you earned from previous attempts. There's lots of different things to do in the game, and you can never experience it all on your first playthrough. Hell, you probably can't even survive your first 72 hours. Back when this game came out, a lot of people complained that it was hard to read some of the text on their standard definition TVs. Ah, the good old transitional days. That's not really an issue anymore, thankfully. But what still is an issue is Otis calling you on the radio every 10 seconds. Geez, it feels like we're dating and he's a very jealous boyfriend or something. Overall though, it's a really fun game. And 10 years later in 2016, Dead Rising was released on the PC, Xbox One, and also here on the PS4. Let's find out together what they've improved. Well, now it's natively 1080p instead of 720p, and it definitely looks sharper. The textures don't seem to be any higher in resolution, however, and there doesn't seem to be any additional polygons. So it's a pretty quick and dirty conversion graphically, but it still looks better. The frame rate has been not tripled, not quadrupled, but doubled to 60 frames per second, which is not only welcome, but quite noticeable. It helps the gameplay feel much smoother. And it makes running over thousands of zombies even more fun. Why were so many people out shopping today, and why were they all hanging out in the parking garage? But the frame rates still drop and stall when attacking large groups of zombies with large objects like benches. I'm wondering if that's by design because there's really no technical reason this needs to happen. The game itself is the same, but I did notice a few minor differences. One is a giant arrow at the top of the screen pointing you to your objective. That is if you wish to complete any of your objectives. Now, this may be in the 360 original, but it sure wasn't when I recorded my footage tonight. And I haven't played this game in quite some time, so, maybe I shut it off somehow, I don't know. The sound is now uncompressed 7.1 instead of compressed Dolby Digital 5.1, but honestly, you really won't notice much of a difference. It's still a fun game though, and this version is really cheap, but if you already have the original 360 version, I really can't recommend it. We all know and love Super Street Fighter 2, each and every one of us without exception. If you disagree with that statement, you're wrong, you're lying to yourself, and you love it more than I do. This is the Saturn version here, because the Saturn is awesome. There's not a whole lot to talk about with this particular game, as we all know what it's about. But in 2008, Capcom released Super Street Fighter Turbo HD Remix on the PS3 and the Xbox 360. This is the PS3 version. They overhauled everything for this one. Unfortunately, the HD graphics, they don't really do a whole lot for me. It looks like budget art with absolutely no style or personality of its own at all. Kinda like a mobile or a flash game. The scrolling isn't even as good, and some stages are missing some line scrolling and even some layers. The music, however, was remixed by my peeps over at Overclocked Remix, and a lot of it could be good, but it's in mono. All of it. And you can't change it to stereo. This is unacceptable. I tell you, I'd be pretty pissed if I contributed any music to this and they went and collapsed it down to a single channel. But the worst thing about this game is that the single player mode is pretty much broken. It's very unbalanced and cheap. So cheap, in fact, you might think you're playing an SNK game. Yeah, I went there. I wasn't able to do very well with my usual characters, but I could walk through the game with Blanca, whom I hardly ever use. This game was recently ported over to the Switch as Ultra Street Fighter 2, supposedly fixing some of the broken gameplay. Buy it at your own risk. But at least I can use my Saturn USB pad on the PS3.
This is God of War for the PlayStation 3. This game was released in 2010 and is the final game in the God of War trilogy. The first two games on the PS2 were amazing, so it goes without saying that I was expecting quite a lot from this final installment, and I wasn't disappointed either. The story continued with Kratos and his quest to defeat Zeus, and to do this, of course, he has to fight hordes of mythological creatures and fight the gods themselves. The action is high and the controls are perfect, making for a classic game. It really does look amazing with loads of detail. The set pieces are really nice and vary quite a bit, from climbing all over a titan who is also climbing Mount Olympus to the depths of Hades as the dead fall to start their long tormented afterlife in the underworld. All this in 720p and a frame rate that fluctuates between 60 and 30 frames per second, which was very acceptable for me at the time. In 2015, Santa Monica Studios got a wild hair up its butt and decided to release a remastered version of God of War 3 on the PS4 commemorating the 10th anniversary of the series. And just like you, I was skeptical of this release. I thought, how much could they possibly upgrade given the game is only 5 years old and the PS3 is no slouch when it comes to turning out graphically impressive games? Well, honestly, the answer is not too much. You're not going to find anything amazing with this disc besides the game. The remastering comes in the form of the game running in 1080p and at a very solid 60 frames per second. Besides that, I've only noticed a few small things here and there, like some of the textures are slightly more defined or more shiny. Or like here on the title screen of all places, look at the blood on Kratos' shoulder armor. The blood splats are different. What's the point of the developer changing the blood splats on the armor? I mean, really, what is the point of this? Did the blood splatter look too unnatural, or were people complaining? You also get all of the costumes and DLC that were available on the original game. Since I just got this title recently, I haven't had a chance to beat it yet, so I can't show you Kratos wearing anything crazy or cool. Just his normal loincloth. Oh, and if you're into such silly things, you can use the photo mode to take pictures of the action and send them to your friends to make them jealous. I mean, who wouldn't be jealous of you playing this game? Other than that, it's the exact same game and it looks good and it plays good. I'm always in the mood to play a God of War game, and this was fun even though the remastered version doesn't need to exist. The only real logical reason to buy this would be if you've never had a PS3. If it weren't for GameSack in this episode, I would have steered clear of this release, but you know what? I like you guys, so it was worth the $20. So what are your thoughts on this title? Do you think it was unnecessary or do you like it?
Beyond Good and Evil from Ubisoft is a cult favorite that was released on the PS2, Xbox, and GameCube back in 2003. You play as Jade, and she's another photojournalist, but she's got green lips. Your uncle is a pig named Paige, and he helps you out on your quest to save the world from the Doms, or maybe from someone else? Part of your mission is to take pictures of all the animals on the planet, and this is how you earn a lot of your money. In some ways, it kind of reminds me of scanning things in Metroid Prime, and that's a good thing, I like that. The game plays out as an action-adventure, and the on-foot scenes are generally pretty fun. I did have problems with the camera though, and there's no setting that's a good setting. No matter what you do, either the X or the Y axis is always going to be backwards from what you want. Very frustrating. There's also lots of exploring in your hovercraft once it gets fixed. These scenes aren't quite as fun, but they're still enjoyable. Weirdly, the game is letterboxed on every platform instead of being in true anamorphic widescreen. That means if you fill your 16:9 screen, you'll end up getting less vertical resolution than if they had gone the anamorphic route. Basically, it means it's fewer pixels to process. Otherwise, the graphics are pretty good for their time, and each platform offered progressive scan modes. The music is also very nice and helps give the game some personality. I kind of remember the game being fairly well reviewed when it came out, but it definitely did not sell well. One theory is that there was just way too much competition coming out at the time of its release. Another is that Ubisoft didn't market it very well at all. Now that's probably true, as I don't really recall seeing much myself. But hindsight is a wonderful thing, and the game has picked up many more fans over the years. And in 2011, Ubisoft saw fit to release Beyond Good and Evil HD on the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 3. I got the PS3 version here for $1 on a sale that they were having on the PSN store. But the Xbox 360 version can also be played on the Xbox One if you go that route. At first, it looks like a fairly decent remaster. The visuals are of course much cleaner and now run at 720p. Since the original game was letterboxed to only 360p inside a 480p window, that means we get twice the resolution in both horizontal and vertical directions. That means there's 4 times as many pixels on your TV screen and mine. The texture map resolution has even been increased. The frame rate has been doubled and runs at 60 frames per second in pretty much every scenario. I haven't noticed any drops. Unfortunately, other than that, it's a pretty lazy port. The polygons certainly all have sharper edges now, but there doesn't seem to be any more polygons that make up the various in-game models. They also didn't bother to fix any of the controls. The camera is still all sorts of messed up, and they didn't even spend a nanosecond thinking about fixing it. And yes, it still makes playing the game very, very annoying. What's more is that it seems to emulate the time it takes to save to a PlayStation 2 memory card. Why? Supposedly there have been minor changes to the audio, but to be honest, I didn't notice anything at all, but I'll take their word for it. Actually, I take that back. I did notice one change. The audio is now out of sync.
They're coming. Quick, Ven, jump up.
Aside from all this nonsense, it's still better than playing the game on a PS2 era system, but the broken camera controls really bring it down and make it very difficult for me to enjoy. I'm telling you, the game would be so much better if they fixed just that. This was intended to be the first of a trilogy of games. In fact, the next game is going to be a prequel, and it adds copious amounts of much-needed F-bombs which were sorely missing in the original game. In fact, that might be a damn good reason to avoid the HD remaster because they didn't add the F-word every other sentence.
Okay, here we are. First segment is done, and I've got to say, a couple of these titles like God of War and Dead Rising actually do feel kind of like ploys to get some more money because it doesn't seem like a lot has changed.
Yeah, not a whole hell of a lot of improvement in like God of War 3, Dead Rising. They're still better, but they're really only worth buying if you don't have the original game.
Right.
But we've got some coming up right here, in fact, that actually might be worth rebuying.
Here's The Legend of Zelda: The Wind Waker for the GameCube. This was the next big console release in the series after Majora's Mask on the N64. As you know, I have mixed opinions on Majora's Mask, so I was really ready for a new installment. The GameCube was Nintendo's first disc-based system, so I felt the possibilities were endless. Visually, I'm a huge fan of the graphics. I still applaud Nintendo for choosing the cartoony graphic style. Toon Link, as people like to call him, looks great, and at the time all of his facial expressions were really cool to see. The world of Wind Waker is a huge ocean, and you navigate it using the Lion Boat. All of the towns and dungeons are on separate islands just waiting for you to find them. Link controls great, and battling with him is super easy. Maybe too easy, in fact, with the Z targeting auto lock-on feature. Defeating enemies is a breeze, but still feels rewarding. In my opinion, The Wind Waker didn't disappoint and is probably in my top 5 Zelda games of all time. In 2013, Nintendo did an amazing thing. They released The Wind Waker HD to the Wii U. I'll be honest and say that while I did buy this game day one, I never even opened it until this review 4 years later. I've been really wanting to play it, but I wanted to be able to spend some quality time with it without distraction so I can immerse myself. I don't think that's going to happen since after this review I'll be moving on to the next review, so it might get shelved again, but I'll get back to it, hopefully. So The Wind Waker HD is a true HD remake in glorious 1080p. Not only that, but it's in 16:9 widescreen now instead of the 4:3 like all Nintendo proper GameCube games were, and it looks fantastic. But sadly, the game still runs only at 30 frames per second. You can tell right from the beginning though that the higher resolution is making a huge difference. Scenes like this where Toon Link is on a pirate ship leaving his home on Windfall Island. The GameCube version is blurry looking at the house in the distance, but the HD remake on Wii U has really nice detail. Hell, if you look hard enough, you can still see your super short grandma on the deck of the house. There's just so much more definition that it actually adds more enjoyment to the game if that's possible. Many of the colors have even been brightened up. Look at the blue hues of the sea and sky. I've noticed a few random changes to the game to accommodate for the Wii U's Miiverse online features. In the GameCube version, when you're trying to get the sail for the boat, you can just buy it from this ugly dude without any problems. In the Wii U version, he sends you on a quest to find Tingle, and you can't get the sail until this has been accomplished. After you find Tingle, he'll give you a Tingle bottle. That's a Tingle bottle, not a Tinkle bottle. Got it? Just tinkle in the ocean if you have to. This little gem lets you send a request for help to the Miiverse by putting a message in a bottle and throwing it into the sea. And you can also rescue bottles with messages from other people. Like this one that's completely nonsensical. Sorry dude, I can't help you out. If you're into that kind of thing, then it's a nice little ad, I guess. One of the better additions that I've actually liked about this release has been the excellent use of the Wii U's gamepad. As you'd guess, it's now used for the game's subscreen. All at the touch of your finger, you have the map screen and the inventory screen. It's so much easier just to use this instead of hitting the pause button all the time to get into the subscreen. I've got to say that I am very pleased with how Nintendo managed the HD remake of this game. The super sharp graphics and the use of the gamepad really make an already enjoyable game even better. I'm looking forward to finishing my quest, and hopefully I can still get Twilight Princess HD because I'll surely like that one as well.
The Uncharted series from Naughty Dog began early in the PlayStation 3's life. There were three games on the system. 1, 2, 3. You take control of Nathan Drake as he looks for lost treasure and stuff. Often, you're going to have to solve puzzles to advance to the next area. You know, because ancient civilizations loved nothing more than to create elaborate puzzles that can weather the test of time. They've stayed intact for hundreds of years, and they only fall apart when you touch them. But that's okay, because it really is part of the fun. Nate is also the most athletic person on the planet. He can run, climb, jump, and do lots of acrobatic stuff that us normal people could only dream of doing. And of course, a large part of these games is the third-person shooter action. There's lots of it here, and they really did it right. Nate also has a fun personality.
Now where'd you get this, my decomposing friend?
I wish I had a personality. The games all really felt like taking part in an action-adventure movie. I gotta admit that I never really enjoyed playing young Nate too much though. The visuals were always outstanding and the soundtrack was a perfect fit. Part 2 is my favorite and Part 3 is my least favorite, but all are a good time. In 2015, the Uncharted Nathan Drake collection came to the PlayStation 4. Not sure who else's collection it could be, but okay. Anyway, this contains all 3 games, now in even HD.
This is more like it.
That's right, they were all originally in pathetic 720p. Ew! But now they're all in mind-blowing 1080p! Not only that, but the PS4 has a wider RGB range than the PS3 seems to, so there's more dynamic range right off the bat. I don't know if this game supports HDR or not because I don't have an HDR TV, and I also don't have any way to record HDR, but it still looks really, really good. The textures are all much higher in resolution, and the polygons seem much smoother as well. Oh, and everything moves at a solid 60 frames per second now. I didn't expect there to be much of a difference from the PS3 games, especially after the Dead Rising comparison, but wow, I'm actually pretty impressed. Bluepoint did a great job remastering these to the PlayStation 4. The sound is still in 7.1 surround, and as far as I can tell, it's pretty much the same as it was, which is to say it's good. Gone are any 6-axis controls from the PlayStation 3 versions, but nobody is going to complain about that. That should be praised. Everything here plays really smooth. In fact, the aiming feels a lot better on these remasters. I'm not sure if there's something Bluepoint did during their conversion regarding this, but I'm sure the higher frame rate helps. And if you really like trophies, well then you can earn some of them again here too. Honestly, I'm surprised they got all 3 games to fit on one Blu-ray disc. They did leave something out though, and that's all the online multiplayer modes. I might be upset about that if I cared about playing online multiplayer, but I don't. But I do like that you can jump from game to game from any of the title screens without going all the way back out to the main title screen or God forbid the PS4 home screen. That'd be just dumb, but Bluepoint is not dumb. Uncharted games don't usually load from the disc very often except when you first boot them up, but even that is a lot faster here than in the PS3 games. Since the price on this has come down so far, I really can't recommend this collection enough, especially if you don't already own the first 3 games. But even if you do, it's fun to play through them again, and the fresh coat of paint is the perfect excuse to do it. I was on the fence for this one for a long while, but not anymore. This is a must-have for the console.
Shoot to kill! Hey! Stop him! You're dead!
I'm one of those guys who really liked Halo on the Xbox. I won't go into the original games too much here, but I love the environments. I love the weapons, and I loved playing as Master Chief. The original was really a great game, especially for its time. It got even better when Halo 2 came out. The fun times of the original were still here, but now it's all even better. Not only that, but we got 16:9 widescreen and perhaps some of the best multiplayer online experiences of its time. After our Xbox episode, a lot of people mentioned that I should get Halo the Master Chief Collection on the Xbox One, and you know what? I did! After my initial 1-hour load to the hard drive, I was pretty stoked to start playing this one. The collection is pretty cool as it includes Halo Anniversary, Halo 2 Anniversary, Halo 3, Halo 3 ODST, and Halo 4. That's a lot of frickin' Halo. As you know, I've played through Halo and Halo 2 and I like them quite a bit. I never bothered to get an Xbox 360, so finally having Halo 3 and 4 is a nice treat. Actually, all of the games are a nice treat for me. The remasters of Halo and Halo 2 are really sweet. Both games look really amazing and run at 60 frames per second. You want to see exactly how the graphics have been updated? Then take a look. Both games let you do this, but check out this footage of Halo 2. With the touch of a button, you can switch back and forth between the original graphics and the enhanced graphics. How do they do that? It's blowing my freaking mind! It's really cool to see how drab and how bland things looked before and how lush and vibrant they look now just by touching a button. Halo 2 definitely got the princess treatment though. Besides toggling the graphics, every cutscene in the game has been redone. Just check out what Blur Studios did. The characters are very lifelike and I went back and forth in my mind when I first saw them wondering if they were CG or not. It's very impressive. And finally, the soundtrack was re-recorded and sounds amazing. Steve Vai did guitar work on the score, and I'm happy with that as I like some of his work. Halo 3 and 4 look really good as well. Since this is my first time playing them, I can't compare them to their original releases, but from what I've played so far, they look and play very well. Here's a few other features that you get with this collection. Every game right off the bat lets you choose what level you want to play. You don't have to play the whole game and unlock each level in order here. If there's a favorite level you have in mind, just go right to it. They've also added skulls. Skulls are features that you can turn on before you start a level. Some of them will give you help during a level, but the majority of them will make enemies harder. Basically, they're a way to make the game more challenging. Or as I like to look at it, if you want to make the game less fun, then turn on some skulls. Also included is Halo Nightfall live-action video series. You have to download these, but I'm not too sure I want to. Are they any good and are they worth the download? I really appreciate everyone who suggested I get this release as it's pretty phenomenal. I'm really looking forward to spending a lot more time with this disc. If you don't have it, then do like me and listen to people's suggestions. Get this release, it's good and it's cheap to boot.
Alright, there's some more HD remasters for you, and I was surprised at some of these on the second half of the episode, Dave, like Uncharted. It turned out really well.
Yeah, it's more than I thought. I originally was like, nah, I don't need Uncharted. I already have them because they're just on the PS3. But what you said about them is actually convincing, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to buy that collection. So
You should.
Yes.
You definitely should.
Yeah.
Anyway, what HD remasters would you like to see us cover? Let us know. In the meantime, thank you for watching GameSet. Hi, Dave.
Hey, Joe.
Did you bring any video games to talk about today?
Yeah.
Are you ready to do the show?
Yeah.
Hello. Yeah, no, welcome. Stu. Yeah, Sack.